Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from the first group. We will bring the presentation about African American experience as a theme in modern drama. African American experience. The African American experience began to appear in the American literature, especially drama, since the 1960s. Among several early plays with the themes of African American experience are A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, Fences by August Wilson, and Wedding Band by Alice Childress. These three plays highlight the African American experience prior to the turbulent civil rights movement of the 60s. It depicts African American life accurately and realistically, challenging stereotypes with the complexity of their characters. To understand the African American experience, let's firstly take a look at the summary review of the three plays above. The first one is A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. This play tells the story of a young family who struggles with racist opposition from local whites. The main issue raised in this drama is double consciousness, influenced by two very different cultures. African American characters in the play often find themselves unable to ignore either culture without sacrificing some of their identity. This double consciousness creates some of the apparent contradictions, one example of which is the conflict between matriarchal and patriarchal rules. The issue of double consciousness in the play is often faced by Benita and her family. Benita is required to choose one of her two boyfriends, Asselguy and George, which means choosing to be fully African or fully American. In this case, Benita needs to understand her ethnicity, find her own identity as an African American, which lies between the Americanness of George and the Africanness of Asselguy. This drama mostly depicts Benita and her family's struggle in maintaining their good understanding of Africa as their heritage and upholding pride as an American-born family and acknowledging what they have achieved through the generations. This play by Hansberry also illustrates how African American black minority should and however recognize the majority and the power behind it, because there are a lot of white people who can achieve many things not because of their racism.
Next is French. French tells the story of Troy Masons. French introduces us to the masculine world of the Masons. An African American jobbik collector and ex-convict who once had a promising future in baseball. His circumstances as a youth led him to prison, after which he settled down with Rose and made a family. French is a portrait of family life, of how its characters view their roles as individual family members, and how they each define their commitment or duty to the family. It is also explored how betrayal can break the family bond. French explored themes relating to the American dream, family, gender roles, and responsibility and provides many opportunities for class discussions, including the duality of character action, how their decisions and behavior are perceived, and the consequences resulting from them. So, the concept of the fence is a central image of the play. The trick with fence, Wilson's instinct, is to build one that will protect rather than separate. Such a fence provides sportive boundaries rather than defensive restrictions, but its construction will not be easy. Corey thinks he has broken free of his father on leaving home. However, he only swaps one set of rules for another. He has exchanged the American ethos of his father for the white dominant ethos of the Marine Corps.
Troy spent time in jail for killing a man. After release from jail, he is left with the only basis judge from which is sport or music. His two sons seek paths to riches through music and sport, which are apparently easy but deceptive, because each of them has tendency toward exploitation, and most African American participants gain meager rewards for the talents they exhibit, and Troy refused to consider such deceptive possibility and through hard work makes a solid niche for himself, ensuring that his spirit lives on after his death. The final scene of the play occurs after Troy's death, on the morning of his funeral. Despite the sad circumstance, it remains a scene of hope. Troy's presence remains strong. Lyons, having survived a stint in jail for kissing other people's cheeks, like his father, who did jail time for murder, has found new direction from being so restricted. Raynell, tending her garden, indicates a future growth, and Corey comes to a new understanding of his patrimony by beginning to acknowledge his father's spirit in him and is able to attend his father's funeral.
Okay, now we're stepping into the next slide, and here, this slide, we're gonna telling you about wedding bands. The problem question, you wondering the question like, what is wedding bands? I'm gonna tell you, wedding bands tells you the forming process that it gonna be the laws have the relationship of Herman, a German American, and Julia, who is African American, and he was now she was unable to marry and trying to avoid discovery of their illegal relationship. And then Julie grows tired and changing apartment and being alone as she waits for Herman to save up a sufficient fund to pay back a loan from his mother's and relocate them into the north where they can marry freely. But before this happens, Herman is struck by flu while at Julia's house, and to hide the relationship, medical treatment is delayed. It's gonna be disgusting, but resulting in this death. Prior to the Civil War, many white slavers had relations with the women's slavers, but their offspring were legally slaves. Herman and Julia display domestic intimacy and devotion and insist there is a lasting love and not some brief infatuation. She even buy his sock when Herman falls ill. Julia's first thought is to fetch him a doctor, but Caesar prevented her by the African American neighbors that and Herman's family because of social and legal reformations of making their relationship public. Before the invention of antibiotics, flu was often fatal, and calling the doctors would have a matter of life and death of Herman, who might have been saved by earlier medical intervention. But if his relationship with Julie had been discovered, everyone would have suffered, because Julia would have a facial fine and a prison sentence. Fanny's lost reputation for allowing relationship to take place under her roof, and Herman's whole family is that would have affected their social and business life. And the aim of last is for the authenticity. Childreness allows characters of both races to display patience, intolerance, and materialism. Thank you so much.
Conclusion. The drama with the theme of the African American experience raises many issues of racism discrimination by whites against black minorities. Dramas with this theme present a picture of the struggle of African Americans to maintain their identity. The existence of strong cultural differences also causes African Americans to face an identity crisis called double consciousness. It is a challenge for African Americans to maintain their heritage of African tradition and pride as an American born citizen at the same time. I think that's all from us. Hopefully, our presentation will be useful and add insight about the African American experience theme in drama. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.